did it take a load off of not being able, like being on camera all the time, of just being able to just go with the script and really work with your voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I'm gorgeous. And so there's a lot of pressure being in front of the camera.
Hey Jay, hey Carl, how's it going today?
What's up,
Good,
Jay?
thanks. How are you, Chad?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Nobody ever asks how I'm doing. That's wonderful
Oh
to hear.
man.
I'm kidding. Congratulations on this new show. It's a big feat, and I know how TV's made. And I guess one of my first things I want to know is when did you see your characters so that you could fit your voices to these claymation dolls?
Other way around. We did them around the table, then we did them in the booth. We got this what I gather is kind of an unusual, unique thing where they instead of only working alone one by one in a booth, we Zach and Brandon really had made sure to have us all be in the room so we kind of bounce off each other and play off each other, which was great. But I remember feeling like really like, oh, that's what Barb looks like. Like I didn't know that at all. I thought I kind of envisioned her like short and roly poly, and she's kind of tall and slim and has like a very compact little look about her. And I hadn't, so it was interesting. Like, I don't know whether the idea for how she looked came from the uh, puppet makers or from Zach and
Mhm.
Brandon. Not sure, but it's interesting.
Now,
Yeah,
what about you, Carl?
they developed the characters after we kind of did the voice, so we got to see them in follow up sessions and stuff like that. That there was description there, but we got to kind of develop who they were based off of how we felt, which was really awesome.
Mhm.
And they also did put like little cameras in the booth with us, so they could kind of catch our facial expressions when we were acting and stuff. So that kind of helped with the development of the characters a little bit. And yeah, but I didn't see mine until I had recorded most of the dialogue for him. So
It's funny. Your Carl, your character looks exactly like of somebody who could be part of your family. It's so very funny. You could just like you could envision him being your uncle or something.
absolutely, yeah, that's what I like about him for sure.
Now, I watched the first episode, and what I thought was, and this is by no means an affront to the show, but I'm looking at these people and I'm hearing them talk and converse with one another. I'm thinking they're so insufferable. Like, why? Who would want to spend time with any of these people? Where are there any parts of your characters that you just think this is me or this isn't me or like or anything along those lines?
But I think Barb and Carl are the exception to that. We're like really nice,
Yeah, yeah, they are. That's true.
aren't we? We're kind
Yeah,
of the nice ones. It's more
I
like,
would,
why do they put up with these other jerks?
yeah. I think what I do take from my character in that vein is like, listen, man, I'm just here so I don't get fined. I mean, like I'm just getting my paycheck. I'm minding my business, and then me and Barb developed this relationship where it's like, oh, there actually is one other person in this place that I could talk to and relate to, on top of being around all these insufferable people.
Yeah.
And I also think that what I do agree, like, kind of feel like with the Carl characters, that he does love these people in a way, like, and I think Barb does as well for sure. Like, where they're like, they're all crazy, but we do care about them, and just kind of like at the end of the day, when we get to go home, that's the best part. But if it was too insufferable, we wouldn't come back. And I
That's true.
think
Yeah. And
that's a
also, isn't that just sort of the center of workplace comedy is that people relate to is like how exhausted you get with somebody's habits or someone's personality. And really, if you didn't have to see them all day long, every day, Monday through Friday, none of it would seem that big a deal. But as it is, it just sits on your last nerve. And
yeah,
so I think they're insufferable, but maybe they're not. It's exaggerated to remind us of what it's like when you work with people, when you get bored with them or frustrated with them, or so I think that's more the quality of it than that it's a world full of insufferable people. I think it's more
Yeah.
like an inside joke about what it is to work with the same people day after day.
Yeah,
yeah,
great points. One of my other things about this show is it's very funny and there's a lot of great little nuances. with it being based on kind of like an NPR style thing. And like NPR, unlike CNN, it just a lot of like first base hits when it comes to jokes instead of just going for the home run and missing and whiffing. Was it with a lot of like cartoon shows not in the same ilk? Did you guys enjoy the kind of comedy that came from Zach and Brandon and Mike with this show?
I totally did. But Carl has done so much more animated work than I have. I'm new to this. So I don't have as much to compare it to, but I felt like it was like working on a play, almost, let alone, I mean, more than a TV show, let alone an animated show. So I'd be interested to hear what Carl has to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I think Zach is such a brilliant mind. Brandon as well. I came up with them in the comedy scene, and I think uh, they're so great at what they do. Mike Judge is a legend, of course, and I love adult animation, always have, and I think the way that, especially the way Mike Judge, like the tone of a lot of his shows is realism and playing that the truthfulness of the comedy stuff, and I think this plays the same way, where it's just like this absurdity that is just fun in a way that I'm excited to see all the episodes. I haven't seen all of them. I'm just like you, so I haven't seen all of them, and I'm excited to see all of them with everybody else when they come out.
Hey, that's wonderful to hear. Guys, thank you so much for talking with me today. I appreciate it. Continue the great work on this show and out elsewhere, and have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Thanks, Chad. I'm going to move you back to the press room.
Cool, cool, cool.
All right.
Hi, guys. How's it going? How's this junket life treating you today?
Junket life, good.
That's great. I'm gonna try to ask you questions that everybody doesn't ask. So that's what I do here. Uh, all right. So this is you're both young. You both have done projects in the past. But this is a great animated start for you. Did it take a load off of not being able, like being on camera all the time, of just being able to just go with the script and really work with your voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I'm gorgeous. And so there's a lot of pressure being in front of the camera. No, I'm kidding. No, it was really, really cool to, I don't want to say worry, because you shouldn't be worrying about what you look like when you're acting, but there is like a, you're thinking heavily about how your performance is being perceived visually a lot of the time. And it's really cool to do such an involved animated project like this, where the performances are very dynamic and they matter, and to not sort of worry about that, and it's like strictly vocal, I thought was really liberating.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that Caitlin just said. I think, even if you're not, consciously thinking about it, subconsciously, you of course when you're on set and working on a live action thing, you're like worried about like, oh, how does my hair look, or all that stuff that at the end of the day like doesn't matter. But yeah, it was super freeing, just like being in the studio and just fully letting go, because it's not you that's going to be on the screen, it's your voice. But I think that just really helped like free us, and just got us out of our heads, and we were truly just able to let go and just play around and play off each other. And we just had the time of our lives doing it. So
That's good. What were your reactions when you saw your characters for the first time? Because I was just told by Carl and Jay that you guys got them after the fact. So how did you react to seeing Caitlin, seeing yourself as this woman who I just couldn't stand for more than 2 minutes at a time?
Oh God. Yeah, no, well, when I first saw Fabian's animated character, I was like, that is not what I was expecting at all. But it really influenced my performance for sure. And it was such a departure from who I am, and also a departure from what I thought Fabian would look like. But I think it matched perfectly. It's like, that is Fabian.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Something we've been kind of laughing about today is the fact that everyone's character seems to look a little like pretty different from the actor. But when I saw Chase for the first time, I was like, that looks similar to me. Like, what's going
Is that my exact face?
Like, whoa, look at me in that tank top. Wow, I'm ripped.
Yeah, I look ripped. Like, what's going on here? But yeah. So in a way, it almost does feel like I'm watching myself on screen. But I don't, I'm not quite as jacked as Chase, I don't think. But yeah, no, I mean, the animation looks incredible. And huge shout out to Shadow Machine, the animators. Like, they
Yeah.
just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's so visually pleasing to look at, and yeah, just they truly like brought our characters to life. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's amazing.
Well, going with that, does the animation bring you back to the days of a Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit like that? Does that just like strike up any type of feelings for you? Because I love seeing that style of animation, especially now on a streaming service like this.
Yeah, I think, it's such an original show and we haven't seen something like this quite yet in this time with this comedy space in this moment and what it's about. And I am such a huge Wallace and Gromit fan. I love the movie Chicken Run. So yeah, to be a part of a project that does that puppetry stop motion is like a dream come true, a bucket list kind of a job. And I just think I think that people are really going. It's so visually pleasing to look at, and also it's so brilliantly written. So I think people are going to really love it. Much like Wallace and Gromit, which is like the funniest stuff I've ever seen.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah, no, everything Caitlin just said, that you just unlocked like some crazy memories right there by like I totally forgot about those but I used to love watching Wallace and Gromit as a kid. But yeah, no, definitely a dream come true. And yeah, no, I feel like there's just something about that animation that really just keeps you reeled in and like invested and just knowing how much work goes into it as well. Like I watched a documentary about the making of the Pinocchio movie.
Mhm.
Um, and that like they were saying like it could take up to like a year to like perfect one of the characters.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it really is like it's crazy, and there's so much work that goes into it. But the final product looks incredible, and again, they just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Caitlin, Charlie, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I appreciate it. You weren't forced or anything, but yeah. Have a great rest of your day and congrats on the new show.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
great to meet you.
Thanks,
Thank
Chad.
you.
We'll move you back to the press room.
All right.
All right, we're going to continue on. We're going to head to the gate.
All right. Hey, Brandon, thank you for joining me today. I mean, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Hi, Chad.
Hi. When I first heard of this show, I immediately thought back to a story that I read in the fall or late fall that was how Aardman was one of the shops that they use, plants they use for clay, was closing down. And when I saw the trailer and when I heard about the show, I thought, how ignorant of these people to make this claymation show and to just use up all of Aardman's clay.
Well, I would say it's like claymation, at least in our show, is a little bit of a misnomer where the puppets are made of like silicon and all sorts of fabrics and materials. Because if it was clay, I think you're right that I think it would be heartless of us to have used up all the clay.
Now, how big were the puppets? Because they look so realistic and kind of a little bit grotesque, almost on the grotesque side. So,
Uh-huh.
what was the inception for those puppets?
So the puppets stood probably on average about a foot tall, something like that. Like some of the puppets are taller than other ones. But the conception, they started by showing us sketches based on the characters, and we sort of guided them towards. Eventually, they did these sculpts, and would be like, oh yeah, more like this and more like that. And then they got more and more and more specific, where they eventually were like hand painting the puppets to make them exactly what you see now in the show.
Wow. Was there ever a point when you were looking at them that you'd think, oh, they're going to come to life and try to kill me?
Not to kill me, but the first time we actually saw like a test animation with the real puppets, they looked so much more vulnerable and realistic than we had expected necessarily for them to look. That one thought we had was we have to go back and change some jokes because the audience will be so mad now if someone treats this character poorly because there's something so affectionate about them now that you're actually seeing their eyes animated.
Yeah. There was one I saw the pilot, and there was a point in the in the episode when I just thought these characters are insufferable. But then I talked to Jay and Carl, and then they're like, no, they're there's some love to them, and they kind of convinced me on that side. But now you say you got them emoting, and people are going feeling bad for them. Was it when you were developing characters, were there points where you thought how am I going to make this person relatable? How am I going to make them kind of push the audience away?
Well, unfortunately, I would say that especially Zach and I, but I think with all the writers, there's a lot of us in the characters, even the
Mm.
bad things that we really relate to them. We might exaggerate it a little bit, but one thing that we thought was important that even at their worst behavior, you could maybe trace it back to something human. So oftentimes Lauren, the main character, is particularly being horrible, but most of the time you can see how it might come from his own insecurities that he's so desperate to be admired or liked or loved that a lot of like if he could just be at peace with himself, he would probably be a much better person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very definitive part where he's talking to himself in the mirror, and that's where I kind of relate. I get it, and I see it, and I go, this guy's great. But then when he's talking to Carl, and he asks Carl, "Hey, let's hang out," and Carl's like, "I got friends in," and then the next thing, oh well, the next thing is nah, they're gonna be here like that. That I do see where you're supposed to really feel for this person and feel with them because I mean, yeah, he just wants to be a part of the crowd, and he's a very likable at that point.
Yeah, and hopefully in that scene you're describing, people can relate to both characters where they've maybe also been Carl sometimes, where this lonely coworker is like, let's hang out. And you're trying to, as kindly as you can, avoid that. And so hopefully with all the characters, people are seeing something of themselves in them at least once in a while.
And this is one of the, I think this might be your first big project where you are in charge from start to finish. Was there ever how did that feel for you when you were in charge? Was there ever a point where it became too big, or were there problems that you solved and it made you feel like, hey, I can keep doing this over and over again?
Yeah, I'm a very unusual position of like, not only was this my only time, like sort of being sort of at the top of the production decision making, this is my only time really being involved in any sort of TV production at all. So when Zach and I were running the writer's room, it was an interesting thing where like every writer in the room had more experience than I did being in writers' rooms.
Mm.
And so how I made that work is one, I called friends who had been head writers in TV shows and asked for their advice. I'm friends with Phil Jackson, who created Grand Crew.
Yeah.
I'm doing improv, and I was like, "How do you do it, Phil? Like, give me some advice." But I would say the other thing that was really helpful is that I never had to do anything by myself. It was always with Zach, and we've been friends forever. So anytime there was a tough decision or a time where we had maybe a creative impulse and we were having there was a discovery process of figuring out the balance between like production needs and where we wanted to go artistically or comedically, and having Zach as a partner made it a lot less stressful, where I could always talk to Zach and be like, what do you think, and we could sort of get on the same page about where we wanted to go with things. And then the other thing is, like I was saying, like all of our writers had more experience. I think it led to a room where hopefully it didn't feel like there was too much hierarchy, where ultimately Zach and I would go with what we thought was best, but where everybody's idea was as valuable as anybody else's.
Yeah, and what's good is you can see that in the writing, and it really pays off on the at least in the pilot episode.
Okay.
Congratulations, Brandon. I appreciate this, and thanks for talking to me. And have a great rest of your day.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.